In this video, I will go over the anime list of winter 2021 and see which ones I want to watch, which ones I don't want to watch, and which ones I will watch the first episode of to see whether it is good enough of a time investment to watch the entire season. Let's get into it. The past year has been rough for us all, and our focus has been on only one thing for the entirety of 2020. We of course all had to deal with the pandemic, and some of us even had to make a few sacrifices to get through the year. The virus also reached the anime industry, and so quite a few shows were actually postponed. Postponed to where, you ask? To here. The next season of anime is almost here, and boy, it is packed. In this video, I'll go over some of the anime that will be airing in winter 2021 and tell you something about each of them. We can't go around it. There are a lot of sequels next year. We have some amazing anime in the lineup, and even though I can see that I'm going to be really busy, I am stoked. Here are just some of the sequels that will be airing in winter 2021. I've already said it in my previous video. This season will be the most action-packed season of Attack on Titan yet, and I fully expect it to top the rankings every single week. If you don't know what Attack on Titan is yet, I'll tell you what it's about. So Attack on Titan is set in a world where humanity was driven to the brink of extinction by their natural enemies called Titans. In a last-ditch effort, humanity has built a city surrounded by walls to survive against the overwhelming power of the Titans. And the story of Attack on Titan is about a boy named Eren and how his life forever changed on that day when the Titans attacked. So if that sounded interesting, make sure you catch up on it. The anime is airing right now as we speak, and I think there's 2 episodes right now, so make sure you catch up and join the discussion. The second part of the second season of ReZero will also be airing in winter 2021, and I'm looking forward to it. With it and Attack on Titan arguably being the flagship anime of the last decade, we have some amazing anime to watch this season. If you haven't seen ReZero, here's the premise. The story is about Subaru, someone who suddenly gets reincarnated while buying groceries from a nearby convenience store. In this new fantasy world that he reincarnates into, he finds out that whenever he dies, he revives and gets sent back to a preset checkpoint. However, he is unable to tell anyone about his newfound power. Or is it actually a curse? To be honest, I can't tell you exactly what happened in the first part of season 2 because I wasn't able to pay attention to it fully. However, I am planning to rewatch it before the next part airs in January in order to understand what was going on again. This is one you cannot miss if you like a good isekai anime. The Promised Neverland also airs this season, and for the people who've never seen it, I'll tell you what it's about. The Promised Neverland is about a girl named Emma, an 11-year-old orphan who has lived on a farm with other orphans for almost her entire life. She enjoys her daily life there, and she's one of the most reliable orphans on the farm due to her athletic ability and positive attitude. One day, another orphan named Connie was leaving the orphanage because the foster mother of all the kids on the farm, Isabella, found a family that were willing to adopt Connie. When Connie had left the house on the farm, Emma noticed that she had forgotten her favorite plushie, so she and Norman, who's another orphan, tried to catch up to Connie to give her the plushie. But when they reached the edge of the farm, they saw strange looking creatures and found Connie dead with a flower in her chest. What is the true purpose of the farm? And who are these creatures Emma and Norman saw? Follow them along in the story, where they suddenly have to fight for their survival. So now I'll go a bit into spoiler territory and talk about what happened in Season 1. Season 1 of The Promised Neverland closed off with Emma, Ray, and some other kids no one cares about, escaping the farm and having to survive beyond the confines of the farm itself. I'm really curious how they will do this, especially considering that they will probably be hunted down and will probably have to make some sacrifices while surviving. I do think that this season will once again be full of 5-head moments, maybe even to a greater extent than Season 1, in order to gain distance upon their constant approaching doom. I also hope to see more of the demons, since we haven't seen them at all, I think, since the first episode. But all in all, I can't wait for the beginning of Season 2, and if you like anime such as Talentless Nana and Death Note, you definitely want to catch up on this one. Dr. Stone also belongs to the numerous sequels airing this season, and I can confidently say that if it aired in a season that was less packed, it would have probably been a contender for the best anime of the season. But with both Attack on Titan and ReZero airing in the same season, I don't think it will happen right now. Despite that, Dr. Stone is still an amazing show to watch. Dr. Stone is a show where you can only like the show if you like the premise, because the premise is what makes the entire show. So if you don't know, this is the premise of Dr. Stone. On a day in the year 2038, the entire world is suddenly engulfed by a blinding light, which results in the entirety of humanity being turned to stone. Over 3,000 years later, one of our main characters named Taiju wakes up again and manages to free himself from this stone prison. He finds Senku, previous classmate of Taiju, who is only interested in one thing: science. With Senku's and Taiju's combined strengths, they aim to revive the entirety of humanity using science. Season 2 of Dr. Stone will continue and conclude the first major arc of the series, which means we can finally see if Senku is able to triumph his first major threat, namely Tsukasa, on his path to reviving the entirety of humanity. If you like the premise of the show, make sure you watch this, because this show has a solid story, contains tons of science, which is what most people like about this show, and it is truly unique. That Time I Got Reincarnated as a Slime is another big production that is airing in winter 2021. Among the current isekai anime, this one is definitely one of the best ones in my opinion. The series is about the main character Satoru, or Rimuru, as he will later be known as. A middle-aged corporate worker who is perfectly okay with his life, other than the fact that he's never managed to get a girlfriend. When he casually meets a co-worker on the streets of Tokyo, he suddenly sees himself as a victor of a robbery, gets stabbed while protecting his co-worker, and gets killed. When he wakes up again, he finds himself to be reincarnated into another world. Not only that, he is reincarnated into a slime. We follow Rimuru as he tries to survive as the lowest ranked monster in this world. Side note, this guy is a true bro. So season 2 of Slime continues with Rimuru trying to expand and grow his nation of Tempest further and further and getting more and more powerful along the way. From the trailer we can see that season 2 kicks off with Rimuru trying to create a relationship between the nation Tempest and the animal kingdom of Eurasania, but the relationship starts off with some sparks between the two. We can also see Rimuru is invited to the Dwarf Kingdom because there is some tension between the Dwarf Kingdom and presumably the Human Kingdom. I wasn't really sure, but I expect Rimuru to play the role of mediator between the two sides for this conflict. The trailer also showcases a new threat, one that is out for blood and is aiming to get the Kingdom of Tempest out of the way, and I hope we will see some top-notch action scenes from this part. All in all, I can't wait for the start of the upcoming season, and if you want to see an isekai executed well, make sure you don't miss out on this show. SoS at Work is kind of unique for me. It is the first anime I have seen that is meant to be educational, and I absolutely love the first season. The show is set in the world of a person, literally. The anime showcases how the different cells in a human body work, what their tasks are, and how they interact from a lighthearted and comedic angle. The central characters of the show are the red blood cell, whose job it is to transport oxygen around the body, and the white blood cell, whose job it is to eliminate any threats to the human body. We follow these characters in their hectic daily lives to protect the human body they live in and to keep it healthy. Season 2 of SoS at Work will probably continue with the same stuff it was showcasing in the first season. If you want to lay back, watch an episode without having to follow some intricate plot and learn something while doing that, you have to watch this. Besides, can you really say no to this face? SoS at Work Season 2 isn't the only anime this season where you suddenly get reminded that we're in the middle of a fucking pandemic, since SoS at Work Black will also be airing this season. SoS at Work Black is a spin-off of SoS at Work, and in short, SoS at Work Black is basically SoS at Work for 18 plus audiences. Instead of seeing how cells work in a healthy human being, we will see how cells operate in bodies that are healthy to a lesser extent, be it due to smoking, drinking extensively, or really high stress levels. Note that this anime will show much more death and blood than the regular SoS at Work, so if you want to watch this with really young kids, you may want to think about that again. However, if you watch SoS at Work and you thought, hey, this anime is good, but it needs more despair, this is the anime you want to watch. Back in 2015, when I watched Lock Horizon for the first time, I loved it. It was one of the first anime I saw with the concept stuck in a game, and I think it is still one of the best ones out there. Season 2 focused way more on the political aspect, but what I really enjoyed the most of that past season was the raid. I think this anime is still one of the most accurate representations of an MMO to date, even though I don't come from an MMO background. So this show is about Shiroe, who is playing the popular MMORPG Elder Tale, when suddenly he and 30,000 other Japanese players are unable to log out again. Shiroe is one of the best players in the game, with him being a former member of the legendary group of players called the Debauchery Tea Party. Shiroe then teams up with an old friend and an assassin as they try to survive in this new world they are now stuck in. in. So I expect the next season to once again have a lot of politics in it, together with some action and some MMO aspects, so if you like that stuff, make sure you watch this one. I only need one word to describe this show, and that is comfy. Season 1 of Eurocamp blew me away with how much I enjoyed it. With its light storytelling and its amazing ambience, it truly encapsulated its intended atmosphere perfectly. So much so that it even inspired people to go camping in real life. So this is the plot of this show. So now that we've got the plot out of the way, let's go. Okay, to be honest, there is some plot to this show, but it isn't super important. This is just an anime about cute girls going camping. In my opinion, this anime is literally made for the winter season. If you want to watch an anime with a hot drink in your hand and under a blanket away from the cold, then you have to watch this one. Non Biori is like the ultimate slice of life for me. The plot is super minimal, and the anime is only about the daily lives of these kids of different ages who are all within the same class at school in rural Japan. However, don't interpret me saying this as that the anime is really boring, nothing happens, and that there are no emotional moments, because there are. Season 1 already showed us how funny and laid back it can be, and just like Eurocamp, it encapsulates the setting perfectly. I'm gonna watch the next season, and if you like slice of life, don't skip out on this one. So I can't say much about the quintuplets, I haven't seen the first season. However, if you want to see a good romance anime next season, make sure you watch this one, because I've heard it is really good. The manga has concluded a few months ago, and I can tell you that the manga does end with an actual best girl. So if you want to T-pose on the people that did not pick best girl, you can, provided that you actually pick best girl. I can't really say much about Beastars either, but I have heard this getting a lot of praise. I am planning to watch this eventually, but I don't really have time right now. If you want to watch a good drama anime or you are a furry, make sure to watch this one next season. And the last of the sequels I will talk about is The Seven Deadly Sins. I'll be honest, I'm not going to watch this. I've skipped out on the last season as well, and I dropped the manga quite a while ago. The story only gets worse in my opinion, and besides some good fight scenes, which I can obviously watch on YouTube, there isn't any reason for me to watch this season. So now, let's talk about the actual new shows that begin airing in winter 2021. Obviously, due to the amount of sequels airing next season, I can't pick up as many new shows as I would normally do. Therefore, for a number of anime that I mentioned, I am planning to only watch the first episode and base my final decision on that. Also note that most of the things I'm about to say about these anime are purely speculations because I haven't read the source material, so be aware of that. So the first anime I want to talk about that begins airing in the upcoming season is Horimiya, an anime adaptation of a romance manga with the same name. Let's go ahead and read the synopsis. At school, Kyoko Hori is known for being smart, attractive, and popular. On the other hand, her classmate, the boring, gloomy Izumi Miyamura, tends to get painted as a loser fanboy. But when a liberally pierced and tattooed, not to mention downright gorgeous Miyamura, appears unexpectedly on the doorstep of secretly plain Jane homebody Hori, these two similarly dissimilar teenagers discover that there are multiple sides to every story and person. So if you like a good romance anime, this is probably one you want to pick up. I have heard quite a few good things about this manga, such as that the characters are very relatable or that the story is really easy to understand, so if you like a good romance anime, make sure you don't miss out on this one. I'm really curious to see whether the different characters we'll get to see in this anime are each well developed or whether they are just personifications of different stereotypes. We'll just have to find out along the way. So the second new anime we'll be taking a look at is Mushuku Tensei Jobless Reincarnation. A 34-year-old neat otaku is chased out from his house by his family. This virgin, plump, unattractive and penniless nice guy found out that his life is going down the path to an end. He then recalled that his life could actually be much better if he can get over the dark history of his life. Just when he was at the point of regret, he saw a truck moving at fast speed and three high schoolers in its path. Mustering all strength he had, he tried to save them and ended up getting run over by the truck, quickly ending his life. The next time he opened his eyes, he is already reincarnated to a world of sword and magic as Rudius Greyrat. Born into a new world, a new life, Rudius decides that this time, I'll really live my life to the fullest, with no regret. Thus he starts the journey of a man yearning to restart his life. So I'm kind of conflicted with this anime, since the trailer looked really good, but the synopsis doesn't tell me anything that special, with it revolving around a need to get isekai'd by Truck-kun and reincarnates into a young boy who has lots of talent for magic and swears to live his life to the fullest. It's all standard isekai stuff up till this point. point. But the manga seems to have a pretty good score, so I think it must be really good in its execution of a standard isekai. So if you like the basic isekai theme, you should watch it, but if you don't, then don't watch it. I'm probably only going to watch the first episode and then base my decision on that, because I'm still not sure whether I'm fully interested in it. The synopsis isn't really giving me a lot to work with, but I guess we'll just have to see how the first episode packs out. So the next anime I want to talk about that airs this season is Redo of Healer. At first I wasn't planning on including this in the video, but then I heard it is quite 18 plus, so I decided to look into it anyway. So here's the synopsis. Healing magicians cannot fight alone. Kearu, who was bound by this common knowledge, was exploited again and again by others. But one day he noticed what may lay beyond healing magic, and was convinced that a healing magician was the strongest class. However, by the time he realized its full potential, he was deprived of everything. Thus, he used healing magic on the world itself to go back 4 years, deciding to redo everything. So I've heard this anime is what happens when you take episode 1 of Goblin Slayer and make it into a full season. So if you don't want to watch an entire season of that, definitely don't watch this one. If you ever watch ReZero and think, I like the isekai, but there's not enough rape scenes in this, then this one falls right in your alley. So this next one is So I'm a Spider. So what? Sounds a little bit like a mafia name for an anime. So I'm a spider, so what, huh? What you gonna do about it? Anyway, here's the synopsis. I, the protagonist, was just an ordinary high school girl, but suddenly I was reincarnated as a spider monster in a fantasy world. Not only that, but I awakened in a dungeon filled with vicious monsters. Armed with only my human knowledge and my overwhelming positivity, I'm forced to use spider webs and traps to defeat far stronger monsters just to stay alive. So begins the labyrinth survival story of a girl with incredible mental strength living as one of the lowest ranked beasts. I'm expecting it to do pretty well since the manga also does pretty well, and I can see some similarities between this anime and Slime, so I'm definitely stoked for this one. This next one is called Skate the Infinity, and it's an original sports anime by Studio Bones. Reiki, a high school sophomore and skater, is addicted to S, a highly secret and dangerous downhill skateboarding race that takes place in an abandoned mine. The skaters are especially wild about the beefs, or the heated battles that erupt in the races. Reiki takes Langa, a transfer student returning to Japan after studying abroad, to the mine where the races are held. Langa, who has no skateboarding experience, finds himself pulled in the world of S. Okay, so to me, this sounds like Fast and Furious Tokyo Drift, but with skating instead of drifting. And I love it. If you want to watch a sports anime, this one is probably for you. I expect it to have tons of action, some drama, and a good training arc, because every sports anime needs a good training arc. And I think this anime will share similarities with Appare Ranman as well, which aired in the summer, with it being a cross between that and a typical sports anime. Definitely check this one out if you like a good sports anime. The next one is called Bottom Tier Character Tomozaki. Tomozaki is one of the best gamers in Japan, and in his opinion, the game of real life is one of the worst. No clear-cut rules for success, horribly balanced, and nothing makes sense. But then he meets a gamer who's just as good as him, and she offers to teach him a few exploits. You see, that last sentence in the synopsis makes me think that there should be a giant banner that says Gone Sexual on there. I mean, I think this is just gonna be our outside the anime, focusing on the romance aspect. But in all seriousness, it does seem like this anime will take some elements of Origairu and Science Fell in Love, so they tried to prove it and put them together in one anime. The animation quality in the trailer was also really good, and it has an interesting concept, so if you like romance anime, you might want to check this one out. I personally really like the gamification aspect, so I'll definitely watch this one, at least the first episode. So the next one is Monster Incidents, or Kemono Jihen. Let's read the synopsis. When a series of animal bodies that rot away after a single night begin appearing in a remote mountain village, Inugami, a detective from Tokyo who specializes in the occult, is called to investigate. While working the case, he befriends a strange boy who works in the field every day instead of going to school. Shunned by his peers and nicknamed Dorotabo after a yokai that lives in the mud, he helps Inugami uncover the truth behind the killings. But supernatural forces are at work, and while Dorotabo is just a nickname, it might not be the only thing about the boy that isn't human. So it's an interesting concept, and the trailer also looked quite interesting, and I expect it to be somewhat similar to Jujutsu Kaisen with the supernatural aspect of it. So my expectations of what will happen in this anime is that this boy who has supernatural powers will probably join the detective agency that the detective from the synopsis is in, and together they will solve mystery related to other cases that have supernatural beings in them. I think that the action aspect also comes from there, that this boy is going to fight people with the same supernatural powers that he has. And I also think that the success or failure of this anime is based on whether the execution of its concept is really good or really bad. For instance, Fire Force is an anime that had a really good concept, but the execution of it was pretty bad. And I can also see it becoming somewhat like Jujutsu Kaisen, where the concept was really interesting and the execution was pretty good as well. So I think I'm just gonna watch the first episode and then see how good it executes on its concept and base my decision on that. So the next one is called Scar on the Prader. The story is set in the fictional Akatsuki Special Ward of Tokyo, formed as a lawless, independent state after the Akatsuki Rebellion overthrew the ward's corporate masters. Maintaining order over the ward are three organizations, Helios, Artemis, and the Public Safety Bureau, who all employ agents known as SCAR. These agents are marked with divine tattoos that grant them the power to turn away any bullet or blade, making them virtually invulnerable. Okay, so this anime can be a real hit or miss for me. I expect it to do either really well or really bad. I can't really tell you why I have this suspicion, apart from the fact that the trailer looked like a goddamn introduction to a new K-pop group because of how pretty all the characters looked. I'm not planning on watching this unless it ends up doing really well, because my schedule's just way too full for this. If you're interested in the concept of this anime, then I definitely encourage you to check out this one. But I wouldn't go into it expecting it to be amazing, because it might as well be super vapid story-wise. And the last one I want to talk about in this video is Heaven's design team Tendebu. In Heaven's animal design department, designers create a variety of new animals daily while contending with the unreasonable requests of their client, God. Funny, interesting, and full of useful information, this series answers questions such as: why can't unicorns exist? What makes an animal taste delicious? What's the most powerful creature in the ocean? And bird versus snake, who would win? You won't believe it's a manga series when you read up on the featured animals in the included encyclopedia entries. Heaven's design team will make your next trip to the zoo or aquarium 100 times more fun. Well, guess that won't happen because we're still in the middle of a fucking pandemic, but alright. So I hope this anime focuses on the comedy rather than trying to be more serious and educational. I think this anime has a way better chance to be successful if they focus on the comedy, with the educational stuff being an added bonus in the same way that Cells at Work did it. I'll at least check out the first episode of this because I love Cells at Work and I think it will be similar to it. So if you like Cells at Work as well, give this one a chance. So that's all the anime I wanted to talk about for the upcoming season. I don't plan on watching everything I've mentioned here till the end, but I will probably check out most of them. Of course, there are other shows airing in winter 2021, so be sure to check out the lineup yourselves. If you plan on watching any of these anime and want to talk about them, you can always join one of my streams to discuss the latest episodes. That's it for me. I hope to see you again and have a great day.